Hey everyone, it's me Alex once again. And today I can't seem to make this video any clearer because I keep making multiple takes of this, but we're going to be discussing how the gaming development precedent kills modern gaming, or is killing most of modern gaming. Now, you might be like, what do you mean by that? Well, most of us that grew up around the, I'd say, late PS1, early PS2 era, GameCube, all that stuff, we would see our games come out every, year or 2 years, like just waiting a little bit, not very long. I mean, I remember playing Paper Mario on the N64 like back in 2001, and when I saw how long it took for them to make the second game, I saw 3 years. I was like, wow, that's a long time. And for that generation and the generation after that, and of course there's exceptions, there are games in general in both these coming generations that were produced, rather slowly, but yeah, most of the time games back then would just come out every 1 or 2 years. I mean, Call of Duty kind of put that thought process into everybody, so that's why we need a new Battlefield every so often. We need a new this, we need a new Mario, we need a new, just new entry in every franchise every year. It was like sequels more so. It just got really weird because going into the middle of the PS4 era, when games were about getting really big, games were needing more time because we were seeing more broken products as the generation got, the PS4 generation anyway, got near the PS5. Like around the late 2010s and early 2020s, we have seen some of the most broken garbage come out on the market, and nobody questions, hey, maybe we should put some more time into developing these games because these companies haven't progressed with the times. That, hey, these games have more, stuff to them, like higher graphical fidelity. We make these huge games. We could add so many mechanics. Like, we need more time. Like, I think games now need about 5 to 7 years of development because 2 to 3 is not enough anymore for most games. Like, it's amazing how back in like the PS3 with like say Uncharted, Uncharted 1 2007, Uncharted 2 2009, Uncharted 3 2011, and then yeah, that's pretty impressive how fast they came out and how quality they were. Of course, they're smaller games, but still, it's that just would happen a lot, and companies kept trying to push this as each generation kept going on, and it's not working. Battlefield 2042, I think it was called. That was one of the most broken games out there, and it was just damn near like insulting to Battlefield fans. I played Battlefield 4, Battlefield 1, mostly Battlefield 4, and what I've heard about this game is just, it's horrible. Horrible. And then we have this new thing where games are coming out, within a few years, but they're not quite complete. If you get what I mean. Like Final Fantasy 15 did this like they did it through DLC to patch in the rest of the story, and then they did another DLC kind of thing with the Royal Edition, and then an episode of Art. They just filled in the gaps and all that to make a full game. But this now is more like literally selling you pieces of the game and then adding in the rest later, or a piece of the game and just putting in the rest later. Halo Infinite. What the shit is going on over there in the Microsoft studios in 343? Microsoft doesn't seem like the kind of company that's good at understanding how game development works, I think. Or they just have an incompetent development team. I'm sorry. You need better leadership or something like that, because something clearly is wrong. And when they released the game, with the campaign. Okay. And no co-op. And no local co-op either, unless you use a glitch. So yeah, no co-op at launch. And I don't think multiplayer was there at day one. Maybe it was. But regardless, it was bare bones. It was missing things that were always in each Halo game prior to this one. So what the fuck? And then I guess there's another mode that was supposed to be in the game. I can't remember what it is. I don't play Halo much. So basically, it was missing a lot of content. And they said, this is going to be a game that we're going to be building over the next 10 years. It's like, okay. But at least give us a meaty full product first. Then keep adding on to it. I mean, I think Destiny is what kind of started this trend of selling some of a full game and then adding in a big chunk of something new to make it a bigger full game rather than just selling you a complete package. That's what you mostly see nowadays. And games like Call of Duty that still try to come out yearly, which they haven't this year, they would put microtransactions into the game and battle passes and all that stuff to kind of get you to get all the DLC that should be unlockable. That's something that went wrong with gaming. So that's an entirely different story. But it's more so the release schedule I want to stay on track with because I'm getting off pretty hard here. So I mean, look at companies like Activision, EA, and just mostly those guys. And there's other companies that I can't remember right now. Well, even Sega, even back then, yeah, they've released just garbage because they would never give the developers enough time to make a decent game, or at least a great game. And now we're starting to see with some developers, like say Sega again, they did this with Sonic 06 where they only gave it like a year of development, maybe. That's bad, especially with something like the Xbox 360. They needed at least 3 years at that time, maybe 2. But then we have Sonic Frontiers, which had the longest development of any Sonic game in history, which is about 5 years. I imagine it would have been 4 if it wasn't for COVID, but they wanted to polish it up really good. They want to make a big impression with Sonic with that game. So guess what happened? Instead of a game that came out somewhat buggy, or very buggy, and then ended up getting fixed, and it was like too late by the time it got fixed, which means nobody was interested anymore, would lose sales. Versus Sonic Frontiers, a game that it was I'd say very polished at the launch of the game, and has a complete, like, meaty gameplay set and story set, everything. It just feels perfect, and it's like, oh wow, wow, I should recommend this thing to my friends. It's a fantastic game, and then everyone will go out and start getting it. The ripple effect, boom, and then they add DLC, which they're still adding DLC as of right now, that make the game even bigger and better. It's very interesting. I like it. And then we have another game that I didn't expect to be the same, because I mentioned Final Fantasy 15. I think there's a cat getting very anxious over there. But anyway, there's the Final Fantasy 15 issue where there is the segmented content, because the game was not complete upon launch and being complete by 2019, so 3 years later. So that game only got 3 years of development initially, and then it needed an extra 3. So that needed 6 to 7 years to be a good game. Now look at 2 games, 3 really: Zelda Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, and I believe possibly Final Fantasy 16. Because we had Breath of the Wild that was announced in 2013, didn't come out until 2017. So that's about, well, they actually started it in 2011, so that took 6 years to make. And from announcement, it only came out after like 4 years. And then Tears of the Kingdom had a very interesting development cycle, because That one took 6 years as well. And I'm thinking, damn, okay. And guess what? They turned out to be some of the most polished games ever made. And graphically, some of the best. And just from a gameplay perspective, some of the best as well. And Breath of the Wild itself has sold over 29 million copies, I believe, maybe 30 million at some point. But it's pretty freaking high up there. And Tears of the Kingdom is climbing up there with 10 million plus going. And these companies don't see. And Final Fantasy 16, I mean, that's like a really meaty game. Like, it's pretty much complete. Unlike 15, so they learned something from 15. They gave them time. So yeah, when you have these games that are allowed the time given, you're gonna have something good, and the game is gonna sell far better in the short term and in the long term. Because if you're looking just for the short term, sure, release a shitty game within 2 to 3 years, you'll get a little bit back, but just barely. Or do you want to put in a decent amount of money into a project that can make like 4 times, 8 times back? You know what I mean? So, sorry if this is very segmented, and sorry for that awkward silence. Just there was some weird noise going on over there. But I have another video in store for you guys tomorrow, hopefully if the item arrives. And I'll be discussing the Nintendo GameCube. So anyway, I'll be seeing you guys next time. Farewell.